Japan has over 1,000 supernatural entities, ranging from yuri, which are human spirits, to tsukumogami, which are just haunted objects. So whether you're at work just trying to get through your workday, or at home folding laundry, go ahead and put your headphones in, turn them up just a bit, because we're about to go ahead and dive into the unknown and mysterious. Today we're going to be diving into the folklore of Japan, taking a closer look at the different cryptids and ghosts that are known by the locals. First, we'll break down the different ways Japan classifies these entities. Then we'll go ahead and dive into a few of them, looking into the history and the lore, and as well as recorded sightings of these different cryptids. Starting off with how these different cryptids are classified in Japan. You'll hear them be called yokai, which are kind of like an umbrella term, just encompassing all the different types of spirits and monsters that are known. Now, starting off with the first type of subclass is a yurei. A yurei is more like a human spirit that has been unable to move on to the afterlife. Next, we have the bakemono, and we're going to go ahead and throw in the bake as well, as that they both are kind of interchangeable with just slightly different meanings, both relating to different spirits who are known to shapeshift, mostly relating back to animals and those spirits as well. Next, we have the tsukumogami, which are objects who have been lost or forgotten or maybe just unkept well over a certain amount of time. Typically about 100 years is what the folklore says that it takes for an entity to go ahead and not an entity possess it, but for the object itself to gain its own spirit. Usually a mischievous one or one that's not necessarily good. And there's also some known as kami, which are known as being a deity or just a god within the Japanese folklore. Okay, now that we know how these different cryptids or yokai are classified, let's go ahead and dive right in with the first one. Also, just a quick warning, if I mispronounce any of these names, obviously I'm not Japanese. I am born in America and raised in America. And so just, I don't mean no harm. I just don't have the accent to be able to pronounce some of these, or even the knowledge on how some of these words are pronounced correctly. Noppera Bo is known to be a faceless ghost. It falls under two different classifications under the yokai. One being the yurei, for it taking an appearance of a human spirit, and then a bakemono, which we'll dive in a little bit later on why it falls underneath that category. The Noppera Bo first appeared during the Edo period, around the 16 to 1700s. The early story described the Noppera Bo as a weeping woman or a child or even a street merchant that only when approached would show its horrifying faceless features. It has been known to be encountered close to dusk, near rivers or maybe an empty street. From local accounts, the entity seems to only be wanting to trick and scare humans and otherwise just be harmless. And now, for the reason for it to be a bakemono, it is believed that the Noppera Bo is actually an animal spirit taking the form of a human in order to trick or deceive humans. One of the more famous stories describe a samurai encountering a faceless woman at a pond, and once he returned home, coming home to his wife, who was also faceless. The Noppera Bo is believed to appear as a warning to those who are about to break a taboo, or for those to look within and see that they have also lost their own self. Next, we have the Jorogumo. The Jorogumo is also known as the binding bride, or the spider woman. Like the Noppera Bo, the Jorogumo is also believed to originate in the Edo period, where she appears to be a predator to wandering men. She is classified as a bakemono due to her being a shape-shifting spider. So the legend goes like this: when a spider lives to be over 400 years old, it gains the ability to shapeshift into a human. And not just any human, but a beautiful, almost impossibly beautiful woman. She then uses her beauty to lure travelers into her lair, which is usually a cave or an abandoned inn or a waterfall. Once there, she offers them hospitality, giving them music, food, and just creating a comforting illusion. Once her victims are entranced, she shows her true form, which is a giant man-eating spider. So in Japan, there seems to be a belief that once a object or entity has lived for a certain amount of time or been forgotten for a certain amount of time, it begins to have its own spirit within itself, which also goes back to how within Japanese folklore, like everything has a spirit within it. And you're just going to be seeing that type of concept throughout some of these other cryptids or yokai within this video. So the Jorogumo seems to be a representation of women who use their beauty and desire as lethal weapons. During the Edo period, when brothels were widespread but yet taboo, she seemed to be a cautionary tale to men to avoid strangers and avoid women who may be impossibly beautiful. In some tales, she even lets her victims survive, depending if they pass her moral test or her spiritual test. Onto the Kappa. Now the Kappa is one of the most well-known yokai in all of Japan. Its name translates to river child. The Kappa legend seems to appear as early as the Heian period, which is around 1794 to 1185. The Kappa is described to be a humanoid creature by the size of a child, with green and bluish skin, a turtle shell on its back, webbed hands and feet, and a beak-like mouth. One of its most distinguishing qualities is that it has a divot within its head, or on top of its head, that holds a small amount of water. Within the legend, the water is representative of its strength and life force. Despite it only being the size of a small child, it has been shown to have extreme strength, being able to drag grown men into a river and drown them. The legend states that the Kappa lives just beneath the surface of the water within ponds or streams, just waiting for a human to get a little bit too close. In the more recent stories, the Kappa is depicted as being a more mischievous monster that makes loud farting noises, flips boats, steals cucumbers from farms, and even look up the skirts of different women in their kimonos. But in older tales, his legend gets a little bit darker. He has been known to drown livestock, trick children into coming to the water and drowning them, as well as extracting a magical soul ball that resides in the rear of a human, otherwise known as the Shirikodama. The legend also states that the Kappa had a slight weakness for politeness. It is said that if you were to encounter a Kappa, you were to bow as deeply as you could, to which, bound by the polite gesture, the Kappa would bow as well, spilling the water and ultimately weakening, if not killing itself. The Kappa is slightly unique, as that it would appear in medical scrolls as a reason for strange injuries or drowned bodies. It was also seen as a reason for a body missing bowels. Now onto the Oni. The Oni could be classified under its own class, but it could also fall under the yokai. The Oni first appeared as early as the Heian period. They were depicted as enormous humanoids with horns, sharp claws, and colored skin. They were said to live in mountains or deep in hell, emerging only to wreak havoc, kidnap sinners, or punish the wicked. Some Oni were said to once be human, transformed by great resentment or deep sin. The typical Oni stands taller than any human, with hulking muscles, one or two horns, shaggy hair, and fang-like teeth. They often carry iron clubs, known as cannibal. They also may appear as different colors, representing different personalities. Red meaning hot-headed and aggressive, blue meaning cunning and sorrowful, with black and green Onis appearing in more supernatural contexts. The Oni seems to represent unchecked impulses, guilt, or karmic punishment. So up next we have the Tsuchinoko. The Tsuchinoko, unlike the others, isn't based off of spirits or demons, but rather a straight up cryptid. Sighting of this creature dates back as early as the 8th century. It is described as a short, chubby snake about 1 to 2.5 feet long, and seems to have the unique quality of looking like it just swallowed a couple of golf balls. Despite its appearance, it actually has been known to be extremely agile, being able to roll away just by biting its own tail and moving like a wheel. The legend states that the snake can mimic human speech, and it also likes to drink alcohol, going as far as even demanding sake from the local farmers. In 1989, a local village officially launched a hunting campaign in order to show any proof of capture, offering a reward of up to 1 million yen, to which resulted in nothing. Some theories state that it's maybe a undocumented type of viper, or maybe it was just a snake that had a fairly large meal. Both explanations leaving the voice mimicry and the alcohol drinking as a rather mysterious, unexplained phenomenon. Now moving on to the Gashadokuro, whose legend dates back to the Sengoku era around the 15th through 17th centuries, when mass death from war, plague, and famine were widespread across Japan. According to the legend, it appears when people die a violent death or through starvation, and their remains were unburied or unrecognized. Being left alone, their souls merge into a single spirit that takes the form of a giant skeleton. The giant roams the countryside in search of humans to kill and to eat. The skeleton is described to be 15 feet taller than any human, and is said to be nearly invisible at night, being heard before it is being seen. It is said at night that you will hear rattling bones, and if you were to hear a ringing noise within your ears, it is said that it is too late for you and that you're about to be grabbed by the skeleton. It is also said that it is impossible to be reasoned with, that it is just an entity pure of rage and hunger. It also has no known weaknesses other than a proper burial in order to prevent one from even becoming a thing, or possibly having a ritual cleansing of the remains that the spirits come from. The Gashadokuro seems to be a representation of what happens when tradition is broken and remains are neglected and untaken care of. Okay, if you enjoyed me talking about Japan's horrifying cryptids, I will be releasing a second video in the near future, just continuing on talking about the different famous cryptids. And before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and comment down below if you guys have heard any of these or have any particular ones I should add in the next video. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Goodbye.